Magnetic recording, method of preserving sounds, pictures, and data in the form of electrical signals through the selective magnetization of portions of a magnetic material. The principle of magnetic recording was first demonstrated by the Danish engineer Valdemar Poulsen in around 1899 to 1900s, when he introduced a machine called the telegraphone that recorded speech magnetically on steel wire. Magnetic tape provides a compact, economical means of preserving and reproducing various forms of information. Magnetic tape revolutionized sound recording, reproduction, and broadcasting. It allowed radio, which had always been broadcast live, to be recorded for later or repeated airing. It allowed gramophone records to be recorded in multiple parts, which were then mixed and edited with tolerable loss in quality.
On September 1, 1902, the first motion picture special effects were used. George Méliès, a magician turned filmmaker, introduced innovative special effects in the first real science fiction film, Le Voyage dans la Lune, aka A Trip to the Moon. It was his 400th film, a narrative fantasy of long shots strung together, punctuated with disappearances, double exposures, and other trick photography and elaborate sets. It was the first film to depict a rocket launching into the moon.
A triode is an electronic amplifying vacuum tube consisting of three electrodes inside an evacuated glass envelope, a heated filament or cathode, a grid, and a plate. It was Lee Forrest who invented the triode. He was an American inventor and early pioneer in radio and in the development of sound on film recording used for motion pictures. The triode was the first practical electronic amplifier and the ancestor of other types of vacuum tubes such as the tetrode and pentode. Its invention founded the electronics age, making possible amplified radio technology and long-distance telephony. Triodes were widely used in consumer electronics devices such as radios and televisions until the 1970s when transistors replaced them.
Hello everyone, I'm Siluki Villaluz. I'm going to talk about iconoscope invented in 1923. This is an example of an iconoscope. Invented is an American inventor, Vladimir Zworykin, the father of television, conceived two components key to the invention, the iconoscope and the kinescope. The iconoscope was an early electronic camera tube used to scan an image for transmission of television. No other practical television scanning device, where it was completely electronic, although some, such as nipple disc, combine electronic elements with mechanical ones. Televisions eventually became fully integrated into daily lives of all the people in the world. Today, people watch more than 4 hours TV each day on average, and typical family households contain at least 2 television sets.
The evolution of the transmission of information has developed throughout the years. But did you know that the first practical sound movie was premiered on 1926? This is the movie Don Juan, directed by Alan Crosland. It was the first feature-length film with synchronized sound effects and musical soundtrack, though it has no spoken dialogue. It premiered at the Warner Theater on Broadway and 52nd Street in New York City on August 6, 1926. It utilized the Vitaphone sound-on-disc sound system with a synchronized musical score and sound effects. The film is inspired by Lord Byron's 1821 epic poem of the same name.
Edwin Howard Armstrong developed wideband frequency modulation, widely known as FM radio, which delivered clearer sound and free up static. Armstrong received a patent on wideband FM on December 26, 1933. Armstrong conducted the first large-scale field tests of his FM radio technology on the 85th floor of RCA's Radio Corporation of America in the Empire State Building. Armstrong's first paper in FM radio was the method of reducing disturbances in radio signaling by a system of frequency modulation. It was presented to the New York section of the Institute of Radio Engineers on November 6th of 1935.
In April 1939, Radio Corporation of America's National Broadcasting Company introduced regularly scheduled electronic television broadcasting in America. The first television broadcast aired was the dedication of the RCA Pavilion at the 1939 New York World's Fair grounds. It was introduced by David Sarnoff himself, the legendary leader of the RCA who was highly influential in the development of radio and television. Later that month, on April 30, opening day ceremonies at the World's Fair were telecast in the medium's first major production, featuring a speech by President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the first U.S. president to appear on television. The broadcast was seen by an estimated 1,000 viewers from the roughly 200 television sets which existed at the time.
So, today in 1940 is the beginning of information science as a discipline in post-World War II. So, information science focuses on understanding problems from the perspective of the stakeholders involved and then applying information and other technologies as needed. So there are three types of information science that were introduced as a discipline in the 1940s, which is logic, where it is a science that deals with the principles and criteria of validity of inference and demonstration. So, second one is information theory, where it is the study of a particular mathematical concept of information. And the third is management science, where it is the broad interdisciplinary study of problem solving and decision making in human organization.
Vannevar Bush is normally considered the grandfather of hypertext since he proposed a system we would now describe as hypertext system as long ago as 1945. This system, the MEMEX or memory extender, was never implemented however, but was only described in theory in Bush's papers. Bush described the MEMEX as a sort of mechanized private file and library, and as a device in which an individual stores his books, records, and communications, and which is mechanized so that it may be consulted with exceeding speed and flexibility.